Hi everyone, today we are going to build a super simple but gorgeous false half drop. So this is not a real half drop, it's a false half drop. So first let's talk about what that is. So let's say you have a repeat pattern and you build your other repeat parts to match up side to side. That is a basic repeat. A half drop repeat is like this. Instead of being straight up and down, it's halfway dropped down the page. A false half drop is where we fold the pattern in half and we drop the next part here. So if you've never done this before, you might not realize how much time this can save you because you actually only have to design half a pattern and you can make a really gorgeous half drop effect without going to the trouble of doing the whole half drop pattern. Another thing I've noticed is that a lot of licensors require me to deliver a basic repeat, but I love half drops, and so I had to develop this way to do a false half drop in order to fulfill my desire for the half drop because it just creates so much gorgeous flow on the page. And as a side bonus, we're only going to be designing half a pattern, which is pretty awesome. So let's dive into it. I'm Liz Kohler Brown. I'm a surface designer and hand letterer who loves helping people find their style and sell their work. Before we start the tutorial, can you just check one thing for me? Look below this video, click on my name, and see if you are subscribed. Every other week, I deliver these either podcast or tutorial style videos to help you find your style and sell your work. So if you're into that and you want to get those in your inbox, go ahead and click subscribe. It really helps me get found by other people who want to find their style and sell their work. So please go ahead and press subscribe if you are enjoying these videos. So I'm starting out here in Procreate with a brand new canvas, and this is 3000 by 3000 pixels. You can really work at any size here. I just like to work with a square because a lot of the companies I work with do require that. So that's the size that I'll be using. Then I'm going to go over to a browser, and I just like to search Biodiversity Heritage Library Flickr Commons. I just Google that phrase, that sends me straight to this library that's full of gorgeous images, and you can go to their photo stream to see what's new, or you can go to the albums to look for specific types of images. I'm gonna just pop on one of these new ones. This looks pretty cool. I feel like I could make a good pattern out of it. So I'm just gonna screenshot this image. And I'm not going to use any of these exactly as they are. It's really just a reference for shapes. Back in Procreate, pulling up that Photos app, and I'm going to move it over to the side here and just have that ready for me when I want to get inspired by some shapes. So since we're doing the false half drop, we actually are only going to work on half the canvas. So I'm going to start by turning on the drawing guide here in the actions menu, press edit drawing guide, and then turn that grid size all the way up so that we just have a nice little grid to show us where the middle is. Now on this first layer, I am here in the Everything Bagel brush set. You can get this Everything Bagel brush set right below this video, so go ahead and pick this up if you don't have it already. I use it with all of my tutorials, so you can use it with all of these projects that I show. And let me get a slightly smaller size here. I'm just going to draw a line down the middle, and my block's going to go on this side. So if you want to go ahead and turn off that guide at this point, you can, just so you have a little bit more visual freedom while you draw. I'm going to start this out really simple and just put a little vine right down the middle, and then the vine will kind of do different things on each side, trying to kind of balance going up, going down, twisting around. I don't want to be too repetitive, so I'm just playing with that. This is going to go off the page, so then it will reappear somewhere up here. So I'm just making myself sort of a visual note of where things might happen. This one's going to go down, and then if we want to connect more things on the top and bottom later, we can, but just trying to start out with some basics here. I like this plant over here, but it's just leaves, and I kind of wanted to have some little buds or something, so let's go with something like what's over here. So I'm going to do my buds in a new color to make it really easy for you all to see. So a bud over here, one down here, just trying to bounce these around the canvas so this pattern has a really varied feel. I don't want anything in a straight line. I just want things to be really fluid and flowing. So nothing is really showing up on the inside here. So let's pop one right here. I don't want to put one right here because then it's going to line up with that one. So I'm going to avoid this general area. I think I'll put one right on the top. And why don't we let that come off the top just a little bit like that. And then it will, well, no, maybe that's too high. So, you know, you always step back and forth when you do these. It takes some time to get it right, but something like that. I'm keeping the flowers simple. Maybe they're just going to be little buds and not even fully formed flowers yet. And then they're gonna have these little casings that hold them on. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw in those casings. Some are facing up, some are facing down. So all the time I'm thinking about directional movement, what direction things are going in. And then let's pull these leaves that are sort of like fluid kind of blobs. They're not sharp. They don't have that normal like sharp feeling that a lot of leaves have at the end. They're really soft. I wonder if I'm going to regret that with my circular buds. I think I am. So let's go sharp on the leaves since we went rounded on the buds. So you really have to think a lot about shape when you build a pattern, because you don't want someone to look at the pattern and just see circles everywhere. You want them to see that variation. So doing the half drop is kind of part of that, but another part of that is the shapes that you put on the canvas. So pretty happy with this. I think we're gonna want one or two to come off the edge of the canvas. So that one's gonna come off the edge. We'll worry about later where that's gonna land. And then do we wanna do one more off the edge? We definitely could have something come here, or you can let that come from the other block. So for now, let's call this one done. So this is basically my pattern, and now we're just going to repeat these parts. So I like to create a new layer and get white as my color and then press fill. We can also go ahead and get rid of that reference image. Now that we have the basis of the pattern, we don't need that reference image anymore. I'm going to go ahead and merge these two. So we just have a white piece of paper with a sketch on it, duplicate it, press the move tool and turn on snapping. And then just pop this over here. So that would be a basic repeat, right? Side by side, but we're going half drop. So we need to drop this baby down and just make sure when you do that, that you're getting those orange snapping. That's why we turn on that snapping tool. So it snaps down into the corner. Same thing, duplicate your original, move it over, and then move it up. And bam, that's our pattern. Now all we have to do is kind of fill in these parts, and by that, I mean, just finish your drawing. So we had a leaf that went off the edge. We're gonna finish it there. This leaf went off the edge too, finish it there. So this isn't a true half drop, right? It's a false half drop. It's a visual half drop, but not actually connecting as a half drop, but the viewer does see it that way just because of the way we've laid the pattern out. So I'm happy with all this. I don't feel like I need to do anything else to adjust this. The only thing I do like to do at this point is get rid of that line, because that's just a little bit of a distraction. I might want to do a couple other things here to seal up this inner part. So I'm just gonna extend this leaf a little bit so we don't have such a big wide open space in the middle. Open that up a little bit. So I'm just kind of beefing up things that are in the middle in order to more fully fill this inner space. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do a basic repeat movement. So make 4 of these by duplicating them. Go ahead and turn on that drawing guide because we need those crosshairs. And then just as you're probably used to doing when you do a basic repeat, move each one to the corner. So top left, top right, and bottom left. And now we can merge all those, again, erasing that line. We don't need the line in the middle, and filling in anything here. So as you can probably see, you spent half the time drawing a pattern because you used the false half drop. You only drew half the pattern, and now all you have to do is match the things up in the middle, and it has this fun half drop flow to it. I love this pattern type because you can get a blender pattern or just a really cute, simple pattern for fabric or wallpaper done really quickly, but it has a beautiful flow to it. So at this point, if you want to do it again, if you want to repeat this 4 times again, move all these guys to the corner, that just gives you even more of a solid repeat. Like the more times you move your block around and adjust it, the more of a kind of complex and interesting repeat you have. So just because you've moved your blocks around once doesn't mean you don't need to do it again. So we can do it that way, or you can duplicate these 1 time, so you only have 2, and move them side to side and work on your repeat there. So basically what you need when you're building a repeat is to see it in all the different angles. So at times you need to see the left and right matchups, and then sometimes you need to see where the corners match up. So when we duplicate it and just shift it side to side, or same idea but top to bottom, 1 down, 1 up, then we can check this inner part. So I do this a lot when I build repeats. Shift it left and right, top to bottom, move the squares around so that I can see every single angle. At this point, I'm pretty happy with it, but what I'm gonna do is duplicate it again 4 times. So this time I will have 5 total, and I'm going to select 4 of them and downsize them, just like that. So now each one goes in the corner. So you're just popping these down in the corner. And what this lets us do is really quickly and visually check our repeat. So turn off your grid so you can't see your grid and just poke around. How does this look? Does this feel solid based on your sketch? Of course, you may want to do a somewhat refined sketch before you do this part, but I think you guys get the idea. We're looking at lines, we're looking at flow. So I feel good about that. I'm ready to ink my repeat. I want to note here that I already have videos where I show how to do this, and we'll link those below. So I'm going to just do a real quick time lapse here, and then we'll pop into the final color version so you can see what this final looks like. But of course, if you need to see that whole process, if you've never made a repeat from scratch, then please feel free to check out that other video where I do show every part of this process. So I'll see you in the end. It's question time. This is the part of the video where I answer a question that you all have asked me on one of my past videos. This is from Stephanie, and this says, when is calendar season? What is a good time to list the New Year's calendar? This is such a good question, Stephanie. For anyone who doesn't know, I love designing calendars. I sell these on Etsy, and I also have a store where I sell them. I have up to, I think, 7 calendars in my library now, and I am obsessed with calendars. And I want to point out here, there is a calendar season that's January to December, but there's also a secondary calendar season that's for people who buy that mid-year one. So some people buy one at the beginning of the year, some people buy them at the middle of the year, and sometimes that's called the academic calendar because the academic world really starts in August. So a lot of people buy those calendars in June or July. So all that to say, there's actually 2 calendar seasons. I think the traditional one, January to December, is a little bigger, but the June to July one, I still do. It rocks. I mean, it's amazing mid-year to be selling a bunch of calendars, right? So in my mind, there is not a bad time of year to design a calendar because every 6 months a new sales season comes up. So you might as well always be working on a calendar. For some people, especially in the beginning, it's going to take you a long time to build that 12 illustration set. So go ahead and start whenever you're ready. I also have a calendar bootcamp with my whole schedule for designing calendars. We're going to link that below this. So if you want to see my full schedule and see when I consider to be the top selling months and the best month to finish your sketches, best month to finish inking and all of those things, check out Calendar Bootcamp right below this video. So here we are with our final half drop, false half drop. So as you can see the half drop feel. It's like leaf, leaf, leaf that drops down the canvas, and yet we didn't have to actually design the half drop. Now, of course, there are always adjustments that you have to make. So let's say, for example, this little guy, he's not in the right place. So there are some things I might have to shift, but if you've ever worked with Affinity Designer on your iPad, you know how easy it is to adjust stuff like this. So if things aren't perfect, you can even adjust the vectors. We could even add, if you wanted to add some little like veins to this, let's say like some dark colored veins, maybe they could be the color of that, we could just draw those in. So we can go through and draw those in, or we could go back to Procreate and create another vector layer that adds that element. So there's a lot we can still play with, of course, but all in all, that was a pretty fast pattern because we used this false drop repeat process. Now, if you've never worked with a live pattern preview like this and you want to try this out, I'm sure if you've never done this before, you can see how much time it saves to just be able to like really quickly see the repeat laid out, adjust the colors. I have a free Affinity 101 course where I get you going with Affinity. So if you're feeling confused about Affinity and you want to try this out, do go check that out. We're going to link that below. But for now, I'm going to call this pattern done and pretty happy with my false drop repeat. So I hope you all had fun building a false half drop pattern. Please share these with me so I can see what you do with this process. I can't wait to see your false half drops. So show me and tell me what you think about this whole process, and I can't wait to see them. You can hit me on Instagram at Liz Kohler Brown, tag me so I can check it out, or you could send me a message here on YouTube with a link to it. If you liked this video, you might also like my videos on diamond layouts, where we do a diamond layout pattern, and also block print style patterns, where we go through the whole process of creating a block print style pattern on your iPad.